Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Saturday, July the 12th. And welcome to our commentary. Well, just a quick thought right here about this Epstein file, which is the files, I guess, that have become quite a controversy in Washington. First of all, I want to hear what President Trump has to say, because I think at the end of the day, he's going to have the last word on this. And so far, well, he said a couple of days ago at that cabinet meeting, he couldn't believe that we're still talking about it. He might have other things to say about it. And I'd like to hear what he has to say because he is going to have the last word on it. If anybody's going to be replaced, he's going to decide or he's going to accept or request the resignation. So that's why I would prefer to just wait, and let President Trump talk about this or say something about this. Now, he's been pretty busy lately, as you can imagine. He was working on that, passing that bill, and then this incident here in Texas, in South Texas at the Guadalupe River. So he's been a pretty busy guy the last few days. So let's give him a chance to catch up with all of this. But it may come down to an interesting resolution, and that is appoint a special prosecutor with a very specific mandate to get to the bottom of it. And when I say get to the bottom of it, I'm not just talking about the files that the Attorney General Bondi has in her office. I'm talking about questioning Attorney General Garland, who had these files too for several years. I mean, this didn't start now. This has been going for a while. And I think part of the reason that there were all these conspiracies and obviously all these things about protecting this person and that person is because of the fact, well, first of all, the suicide, that obviously made things more complicated, but also the fact that the Biden administration had these files and really didn't do anything about it. So I think we've kind of reached the point where you've got two sides with very strong feelings, and, before a bunch of good people start resigning, and I say that seriously, I mean, these are good people. We're talking about the FBI director, the attorney general, and I guess the assistant FBI director, Bongino. Before good people start leaving over this, on this issue, it's not going to get easier to resolve it. That's my point. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about that big story in the news. I have a post over in the American Thinker today talking about this raid in California. You may have heard about it. They conducted a raid in a, I guess, marijuana farm, cannabis farm or whatever. And, there were many illegals who were working in that farm. That's not a shock because I think everybody expected that. But the big, I guess, shock was the fact that they found a bunch of minors in there, including 8 unaccompanied minors. And in fact, somebody put a photo today. I think it may have been ICE who released the photo of these young people. They covered their faces, of course, but still, it's it's a pretty sad situation when you have these minors working in a farm. I have no idea how they got away with it, but they did. And the fellow who runs the farm or owns the farm or whatever, I believe is being targeted now for violations of child labor laws. I find it interesting because ICE went to a judge and they got a warrant to go into that farm, which means they must have had some pretty strong information ahead of entering the farm that there were some minors in there. But of course, what happens in California, every time that ICE wants to do an operation, all these people show up, blocking ICE from conducting its operations. And that you cannot have that. I'm sorry. I don't care how you feel about ICE. You cannot have people throwing stones and blocking ICE automobiles or trucks or whatever, standing in front of them, preventing ICE from doing their job. And when you add on top of all of this, the story about the kids, well, that just makes it 10 times worse. So all I can tell you is that California is going to have to make a decision. Now you have the mayor of LA saying that they're going to give cash to people to compensate for whatever losses. She's claiming in an interview, the mayor of LA is claiming that many people are not going to work because they're afraid of being arrested or being picked up by ICE. Well, why are they afraid of being picked up by ICE? I don't know. I kind of like to know. Maybe it's because they're in the country illegally. Maybe it's because they have a deportation notice they're not obeying. I don't know. ICE is not just picking up anybody. I mean, they're picking up certain people. They're targeting certain situations. So I think California is going to have to decide one way or another whether or not they want to be a part of the union when it comes to immigration laws. They cannot have their own immigration laws. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. There was recently a case out of Florida where Florida decided to write an immigration law, and it was, brought down by the courts, correctly so. I mean, Florida doesn't get to do immigration laws. That's why we have a federal government. So I think, California is going to have to come to terms with that. Now, my guess is that the mayor of LA, who is frankly not a very competent mayor, she's not a very good mayor. I mean, just look at the state of the city and look at the way that situation with the fires was handled, not very well. And then you have a governor, of course, who's running for president, who's looking for every opportunity to get into a fight with Donald Trump. These people are going to have to they're going to have to make a decision. Are we part of the union, or do we want to be our own country? Because if you're part of the union, you got to obey immigration laws, because that's what it's about. That's what this is about. This is not really about the farm, although that was pretty bad having minors there. The real issue for me here is that they have to either respect immigration laws or they have to face the consequences. And maybe the mayor of LA wants to be arrested so that she can become, a big hero in the community. I don't know. But they have to, they have to accept the fact that immigration laws are federal and that the federal law is supreme over the state law, and they need to work with ICE. And if ICE has a warrant from a judge, I think that's pretty clear that they've got, they've done their homework and they've done things correctly. So I don't know. It's just amazing to me the extent to which some of these Democrats will go just to stand up to Trump. It's amazing. It's just amazing to me the extent to which they will go to stand up to Trump. Well, speaking of Democrats, there was a brand new poll that came out asking people what they thought about the Democrat Party, and it doesn't have very good news for the Democrats, especially among men. Men have completely lost respect, if you will, for the Democrat Party. Not just white men, but Hispanic and other men as well. And let me tell you what the polls, what men think of the Democrat Party, and it's like 35% approval. But here's what came out in some of the answers they got. The Democrat Party is out of touch. That's one important feeling that many men have. They're out of touch. They're weak, and they're too woke. That's what this poll is saying. They're out of touch, they're weak, and they're woke. And that's why they're losing the male vote. That's why men have such a low opinion of the Democrat Party. Now, apparently, the Democrats are trying to change that. They're creating a program, spending $20 million, I guess, to connect with men, find out how they can connect with men. And, that's not the kind of thing that you do overnight. It's going to take a lot more than just spending $20 million. But, I wrote a post about this recently where I recommended to the Democrats that if they want to reconnect with men, there's a couple of things they can do. Number one, they can watch a few John Wayne movies and kind of see how John Wayne talks and how he walks and the image, the masculine image that he presents. They got to have more politicians that talk like that and walk like that. And then, of course, the other thing they can do is simply go back in their own history and maybe watch John Kennedy give a speech, or maybe watch some of the other personalities of the past give a speech when the party didn't have any trouble attracting men. So they need to change their image, because the current image is not working at all, especially with men. And when you're at 35% approval, according to this poll that came out with men, 35% is not a good number. It's just not a good number at all for approval of anything, especially a political party. Well, I've got a post coming out tomorrow. President Trump, and I'm not exactly sure how he got into this, but I think there's some talk in Washington of bringing back the name of the Redskins to the football team. You know, the Commanders now. And there's some talk about bringing back the name of the Redskins. Well, it turns out that a lot of people agree with that. So I have a post coming out Sunday morning where I actually agree with President Trump when he said that the Redskins was a better name. It certainly was. And I know as a Cowboys fan, over the years, you know, we had our rivalry, and I guess we still do, but it just doesn't feel the same. You know, Cowboys, Commanders just doesn't have the same ring to it. But Cowboys and Redskins, man, it's full of great games and tradition. So I have a post coming out Sunday morning calling on President Trump and the NFL to bring back the name Redskins. And when they're doing that, also bring back the name of the Indians to Cleveland, because that's the other team that changed its name from the Cleveland Indians to the Guardians, which is really stupid. I don't like that one either. So anyway, bring back the name of the Redskins. And I think you're going to see a lot of fans like me be pretty happy about it. I'm not even a Redskins fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. But that tradition of the Redskins and the Cowboys is something that I miss. Those games between the Washington Redskins and the Cowboys, it's just not the same when it's the Cowboys playing the Commanders. It just doesn't have the same feeling. So bring back the Redskins and bring back those good old days. Well, thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.